Okay, let's look at work breakdown structure in a very quick manner. So you can actually look at this, watch this video in conjunction with the PPT slides. So I want you to recall in last lesson, we actually discussed about Asiana, right? There was a company that actually assigned you as a project manager and asked you to set up a new branch in the country of Asiana. So y'all actually broke into groups and then like discussed and then broke down the task and list down a list of things that y'all need to do, and we also discussed like what was feasible and what was not. So when you break down the Asiana case study, you didn't have any guideline to follow, right? So you just discuss with your friends, and then with your instinct, you sort of like list out the tasks that you need to do. But now with WPBS, there are certain guidelines, not really like guidelines, but um, there are examples and things that you can consider when you list down the task. So let's say, right, you look at here, it's kind of dry, but please bear with me. I promise this will be over in 1 minute. So you can see here, right, there are different functions like deliverables, phases, functional, job. These are formats, sorry, or what we call formats. So what do we mean by this? So you are assigned a project, and then firstly, you can actually break it down by deliverables. So deliverables, you can break it down by software, hardware, training. So let's say you have 3 people. One will be in charge of software, one hardware, and one training. So we're just gonna look at this software. So within the software itself, the department, they will have to sort of like break it further down. So how do they break it down? They can actually go by phases. So before they develop the software, they have to go and find out the user requirement, and then they think about what to design, and then they have to do a testing on user acceptance, and then only they hand over the software to the respective departments. So when we look at this part, right, for design, so what to design? You have to break it further down because you have quite a number of departments to deal with. Let's say you have to design the software for finance department, for HR, for production unit, and sales unit. So different department, they have different requirements. So yeah, if you look at production, right, you can further break it down by functions. You have US plant, then okay, sorry, functions are these, the departments, different departments. So you can break the function further down by geographical areas. So you have one plant in US, one plant in APAC. So they have different geographical areas, they have different needs. So that is how you actually break your WBS. So another way of breaking it, right, is you actually can put phases first. So you can have like pre-pro and then production, then integration, and then within the preparatory stage, you can actually break it down through by activities and then geographical areas and then functions. So it's up to you. What do you want to, what format do you want to use? All right. So work breakdown structure, it defines and provides better control and then relates the element of work to each other and to the end product. So forms the organizational foundation and manage framework for project planning, control over scope of work, allocation of budget, control of cost, and scheduling. So these few, right, actually in the introduction I mentioned before, it defines the scope, it helps you to estimate the stuffing, the time, the cost, and then it helps you identify the risk. So basically these all, right, they mean the same thing. I'm not going to repeat again. All right, they mean the same thing. So let's look at a case study. So this, you can see this is a TVC, a television commercial, and then these are uh, advertisements from HPB. So before they actually come up with all this, right, they must go through uh, different stages of proper planning. So let's look at the stages that they actually have before they uh, roll out the campaign. So you can see from April to next year, March, okay, they have like below the line and then above the line advertisement. Below the line means like more to one kind of advertisement, like direct mailer, things like that. Above the line includes like TV commercial, like advertisements, yeah, things like that. So you can see they started in April. They roll out the direct mailer first, and then they have staging of TNA's play, some sort of play, and then they have exhibition, they have educational materials. They actually sort of like roll out things one after another, and you can see that some actually overlap each other. So from this diagram, right, you can sort of like see what kind of planning they actually went through and what actually ran concurrently with other stuff. Okay, so this is roughly how you sort of like schedule your different parts of your project. Okay, so next on, WBS should include both project-specific and project management activities. So that means if you need to sort of like produce a social campaign and then you need to have like 500 likes, that would be your project deliverable. Okay, so you have to have 500 likes and then project, and then how do you achieve that? Then project management activity means what kind of management activity do you have in order to uh, achieve that project goal? Okay, so to be honest, there is no unique WBS for most projects. Most projects actually go through the same kind of thing lah, especially when there is like engineering software projects. The procedures are almost the same. So WBS for them is actually kind of repetitive. So graphical or outline format. Just now I mentioned about format, right? It's like this. Just now I showed you, right? The formats are here. So formats can be organized in any of the following ways: major deliverables or product groups, life cycle of phases, functional or organizational groups, geographical areas, cost and resource allocation. It's really up to you what do you want to sort of like use in order to break down your tasks. So the WBS must have sufficient level of detail so that the work packages are clear, meaningful, and unambiguous for deliverable owner to link the work packages to the attainment of project deliverable, and then to check times, blah blah blah. So these all actually is a repetition of what I said earlier on. So steps to do it, you can actually read by yourself. So when you are going to start your project, right, you need to actually look at this. How do you break down your tasks, especially when you have a group of people? You can actually look at different designation, the expertise, or you can look at different phases like pre-production, production, post-production, things like that. And then you sort of like discuss and come up with the detailed tasks. So one thing to actually take note is each task they have to satisfy the condition of mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. What does it mean by collectively exhaustive? Meaning, right, just now I mentioned about level 1 and 2 have to cover 100% of the project process, right? So it's like you are throwing a dice. So a dice has 6 sides, right? So it means no matter how you throw the dice, the range will be from 1 to 6. So no matter how you look at it, right, your level 1 and 2 must cover everything that you want to do. So yeah, that's what collectively exhausted means. So the lowest level task along each branch is known as a work package. So it doesn't necessarily stop at level 3. It can go as far as level 5, as some of the projects are bigger in scale and then more complicated and yeah. So the lowest level task, it's called work package. So all these package must add up to the summary task from which they stem. So let's look at activities sequencing. So this is actually a sequencing sheet. You have a single list of all the activities planned. So each task is assigned to an individual who assumes it as a short-term goal. So uh, they have to be very clear, okay? They have to clarify sequence and dependence. What do you mean by dependence? Let's say you are shooting a film. Before you complete the pre-production, you cannot start with production, right? So before you complete the production, you cannot start with your post-production. So your task is actually interdependent. So yeah, that is what dependence means. So in order to make it clear to the stakeholders, before you start with your project, always come up with a timeline. So this timeline has to show like what you're gonna do, and then uh, what are the interdependencies. And then you have to summarize the scheduling of main activities. And then it's good that if you can use milestones, for example, filming of a movie, you can actually put different milestones at different phases, so that you can always do a check uh, to see that whether you're on track. And then the level and type of expertise needed should be decided for each task separately, meaning you have a group of people, you have a group of crew. So yeah, like I said, you can actually break it down by expertise. So this sample activity table is very much like just now what I showed you, the WBS. It's just that the format is a little different. So let's say this is 1, so this is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. So this is 2, 2.1. So it has start, end, date, it has duration, and then the person in charge. So another way of showing it, right, is in this way. This is called a Gantt chart. Gantt chart is very commonly used in project management in order to show the duration of each task. So because it's visual, so a lot of people like this because you can actually see like very clearly what is happening now, and then are you on schedule, and then like what's the duration like and stuff. Yeah, there are other tools as well, like there is a precedence table, network diagram, and critical path analysis. So just now I mentioned there is interdependency. So how do you actually indicate that, right? Just now I showed you this activity sheet, right? As well as this Gantt chart. From here, right, you can see, let's say this one, business open. So PR means precedence. So EFH, what does it mean? So E is marketing drive started, and then F is office equipment installed, and H, staff trained. So the business cannot be open unless these three criteria are fulfilled. So the PRs are here. It's quite clear. So this one as well, I mean, like these special effects won't happen before the editing ends. No. It happened while it started. When it started, it happened concurrently. But it has to, the editing has to end before the special effects ends. Okay, so you can actually see that there are different ways of showing precedence. Okay, so just now I mentioned there are dependencies. You can actually look at the list of dependencies. And in another case, usually in software development environment, they will use network diagram. Okay, network diagram. For example, you have to start your cycle like this, and then if yes, go here. But I don't think for your case you will use this at all. So it's good to know some of the companies use network diagrams. And lastly, right, let's look at the critical path. Actually, it is quite critical. It is actually a series of tasks that takes the longest time to complete. I believe all of you have experience in cooking, right? Let's imagine you want to actually make a dish. So without wasting your time, you may want to boil the water while you're cutting up the vegetable. Yeah, so after you put the vegetable in the boiled water, then you can do something else. So you can actually do quite a couple of things while things are happening. So the critical path is a series of tasks that helps to reduce the time that you need to complete something. So let's look at this. Let's say critical path. Like I said, it is the longest path to complete the project. So when you want to wait for the eggs to, while you wait for the eggs to poach, right, you can actually slice the bread, and then while you slice the bread and wait for it to toast, right, you can feel kettle. So you can actually slot in some other tasks in between so that you don't waste time. That's what I mean. So whenever you have a very long schedule, right, you try to break it up and try to slot in concurrent tasks in order to speed up your project duration. So that's what I mean. So I hope you can read up the PPT on your own, because after this there will be a quiz. Good luck to all of you.